But after doing the last tour, I took a deep breath and I thought, how much more of this do I have in me? And the answer is some, but not much.
Welcome to Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex, the podcast where we listen to every single album in the world, whether we like it or not. I'm joined for the first time ever by no one, because today is a little bit different. Today we're interviewing Michael Gira of Swans, which is pretty big news. We've covered every Swans album over the course of 3 lengthy episodes. You can find links to all those in the description. We have a whole playlist dedicated to it on YouTube. They're not on Spotify because Spotify deleted a lot of our episodes, including every Swans episode. Long story, Spotify sucks. Don't go there unless you're already there. Sorry. But where we left off on the last Swans episode we did, it was right when The Beggar came out. So now Swans are back. They're back with a new album that's coming out on May 30th, titled Birthing. And we talked all about it with Michael. It was a great conversation. He was very generous with his time and he's very friendly. So big thanks to Michael for joining us, and huge thanks to everyone who helped put this together. I am eternally grateful. So let's get right to it. This is our conversation with Michael Gira.
Hello, Michael Gira.
Hello, friends. How are you?
Very good. But before we get into the questions, I just wanted to say, Mr. Gira, that it's been a real joy to listen to the album. I know that you are historically not the kindest critic when it comes to your own music, but for what it's worth, as a fan of your music for a long time, it's really inspiring to hear you still creating music that is powerful and then also surprising as well. You know, there were various parts of the record of Birthing that I didn't expect, and for what it's worth, I think it's to your great credit as a songwriter and performer and producer that you're able to keep creating surprises.
Thank you very much indeed. I don't know. I'm not sure how what's going to happen next, but that's what I strive for. Thank you. It's interesting that you saw that first show, because that was a very rudimentary kind of version of what that music became after a year of touring. I mean, if you would have seen that and then saw it at the end, I think it would have been hard to recognize some of the material. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, the funny thing was I was actually living in Berlin at that time, and I really wanted to see the Berlin show at the end of the tour, and I thought that would have been great to see at the start and the end, but in the end, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that.
I did see the very end, which was interesting that you saw the first, I saw the end, and we saw completely different shows. It was
sure
fascinating. It's kind of one of my favorite things about Swan shows is that you don't recognize any of the songs if you see them at the end of the tour, after the most recent album is dropped.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the intent, but it's sort of what the creator makes happen. The overall creator, bigger than us. The music just gradually evolves of its own accord, really, with our participation, but it really guides us forward and becomes something that keeps us alive in the process. So
it might sound a little hyperbolic, but I can safely say it's one of my favorite Swans albums, dating back to everything. And my first listen, I don't want to ramble too much, but my first listen, I decided to make it like a little meditation. I, had the lights super dim. I just sat there and meditated through the entire 2 hours. And the thing I took away from it was it felt like breathing. Like the album felt like it was breathing. The sort of ebbs and flows, the way it picks up, the way it slows down, the way it kind of shocks you when you think you're getting too comfortable. It felt like a weird, almost auditory version of life. I don't know, that sounds a little dramatic, but that's what I got from it.
That's all right. That's wonderful to hear. What was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. Anyway, go on.
So going into the questions and going back to that Leipzig show, Mr. Gira, I was wondering when I saw you there and when I saw the band there, you seemed to play at least one song, possibly two, that I'd never heard before, and they weren't on The Beggar. And I understand that with Birthing, some of these tracks have come from sort of organically growing through live performances. And I was wondering were there actually tracks that originated in some early form as far back as that first show in Leipzig?
I don't remember what the material was on that first show, to be honest. But as you mentioned, the music mutates, right? And sometimes we'll find a passage within what we're playing of an older song, of a song that's already been recorded or something, and that leads us into a new thing. And then it becomes a new song. Most of the songs they in their very beginning were originated, like always, on my acoustic guitar here at home. But with all due credit to the wonderful musicians with whom I work, their input and our collective kind of consciousness makes the music live in a much bigger way than any of us as individuals are capable of doing.
So, well, when you're in that initial writing process with just you and a guitar, because I imagine you have a sense of the musicians you want to perform on the songs eventually. How much of the arrangements do you hear or sense during that initial writing process?
When it's happening, I think a lot. But once I start playing with people, 75% of that goes out the window because someone will surprise me, and that's what we have to go with, because it's obviously more urgent and interesting than my own pedestrian idea at the beginning. I was just thinking recently, it's like it's like a John Cassavetes film, I mean, in a way, it could be related to filmmaking, I guess. And you might have a script, but then as you start to film, it's obvious that new things have to happen, and because these actors are involved, and things just grow by improvisation, and it eventually becomes maybe a better movie than it might have been at the beginning. On the other hand, a genius like Alfred Hitchcock, every single second of the movie was preordained and thought out clearly. So that's a different way of working. But the way I work is in the moment. I have a notion or an impetus of how I want things to progress, but I have to remain open to what's happening in the moment, because I'm working with human beings who are also very creative in their own way.
That's very interesting that you use the word urgent, because for the past few days, that's the word that just kept popping into my head about how I would describe Swans to anybody. It's just urgency.
Oh, that's great. The power of now.
Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense, because, like Swans, I would say Swans is a very now band. At whatever point, it's never really looking back. It's where it is, which in a way seems like kind of a redundant statement, but somehow it seems to fit. Talking about the lyrics, so you start the album with a reference to mother and daughter, and I was thinking, I've heard these familial motifs from you throughout other releases, whether Swans or Angels of Light, talking about mothers, fathers, daughters. And I was wondering, is this consciously sort of a Jungian archetype concept that you've absorbed from psychoanalytics, or am I overreading your lyrical inspirations?
Well, I think I read Jung about 40 years ago a little bit, but no, I just follow the directions that whoever is reaching into the back of my head and writing the songs gives me. That song, I'm still trying to figure out the words to. I mean, other songs, I pretty much know what the inspiration was and kind of what I'm hoping to convey. Not that I would really explicate it in an interview, but that song, of course, it has to do with healing, but exactly where the central meaning is in it, I'm not exactly sure. Except I feel it strongly. I guess I could put it that way.
That's also very interesting. I've heard other people mention that, this sort of sense of writing something and then later on discovering where that might have been coming from that they hadn't realized before. Is that something that you've that you experience quite commonly, where you write something and then further down the line you go, oh, I didn't realize that I was actually writing about that topic?
Maybe so. I mean, I wish I could write more topical songs or more kind of storytelling songs. On occasion, I've been able to do so, but nothing comes easy for me. So I grab what I can get. And if I find words that are kind of multidimensional that seem to imply three or four different meanings, then I go with those and I let them lead me where they want. And eventually a song takes place. Other songs, I mean, I'm about to embark on a solo tour, so I'm playing the song Failure, which is a narrative song. And I think it's a very good song, but I can't really force myself to do that. So I just wait for whatever chance God is going to throw my way and go with that.
That's also very odd because you're talking about how from time to time you've been able to write a little bit more narrative driven songs, and the first song that popped in my head was Failure. So that's very fun to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few standouts like that. Goddamn the Sun, Blind, where that just happened, you know. I guess there's some on Angels of Light too. I can't really think of them right now, but I'm very covetous of a song. Once I get some words, I'm very grateful that it's happened at all. So I just once I get some words, then I edit and edit and edit and work on it until it has its own logic, and then that's the song.
I understand that completely. Yeah. So I want to ask, during the lead up to birthing, and then maybe even during the making, which because you brought up Cassavetes and Hitchcock, which films, paintings, or books did you find yourself most drawn to
during the period of making the album?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, none really. I don't. I would say allow, but outside artistic influences don't really come into the work very much. I mean, sometimes I've written songs after seeing a film or reading a book, and that'll be the specific influence. I mean, there was a song on the album, I think it's on To Be Kind, which is called Kirsten Supine, and that was written after watching Lars von Trier's Melancholia, which I found to be a very moving film. Generally, I don't work like that. It's all the main reference to the music is Swans, and where should it go from here, and how does it feel, and what's the next thing, basically.
Well, you may have kind of already answered the next question I'm going to ask, but I noticed on The Healers and on Guardian Spirits that there were passages that sounded to me like harmonica, even though I believe they're actually melodica. But it made me wonder if this was in any way kind of it. Or sorry, was it harmonica?
It's harmonica. Yeah, I played some harmonica on there.
Well, so what I was wondering, because I think the only other time that I can think of that I thought I heard harmonica, although again, this may not have been harmonica, was on Another You from Holy Money. If you remember that track, was that harmonica that you were playing on that as well?
Yeah.
I was wondering, is this in any way a nod to Morricone? Because I remember when I interviewed you before, you mentioned that he was an inspiration production-wise, or is that just a coincidence?
Yeah, one time he was. I can't play harmonica that well. I learned to play it by when I was hitchhiking across America a couple of times, and I took a harmonica with me. When I was standing by the side of the road, I had a harmonica, and I would just play for hours. And so it's always been sort of something I can always go to.
Yeah, that seems like a very appropriate kind of environment for playing the harmonica.
Well, boredom, you know.
Yeah.
So on a couple of tracks, I noticed what I thought was a pretty clear Eastern influence in the sound, but what I was most taken by was I found some. I mean, it could just be me imagining things, but some of your vocals, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's not quite a vibrato. It's sort of this vocal flutter that you hear a lot in Indian music. What drove you to experiment in that way with your voice?
Uh, yeah, that just happened live, but I mean, I appreciate that kind of singing very much. I guess Nusrat Ali Khan would be the first one you think of with that, right? But not that I mean, that's a master vocalist, but it just makes sense with the music because there's these long droning sounds, and then you can move around several microtones into a next note or in between the notes very fluidly within those within the context. And it just, I mean, I'm putting it in words right now, but that happened spontaneously in the singing.
Something else that I noticed, which did come out a little bit in your vocals, but I guess probably was more something I noticed in some of the playing, was that there seemed to be at least what I would associate as kind of a new wave or a post-punk style at points, particularly I guess in sort of the later parts of the Healers and I Am a Tower, and actually really most strikingly the second part of I Am a Tower, which I thought was like a very notable section, really reminded me of something, and I couldn't figure out what it was at first. And then I thought, oh, this makes me think of Heroes by Bowie. And
Yeah, people have said that.
oh, okay, it's not just me
It's
because I
it's DG. It's D. No, it's DG. D chord to a G chord. Um, and Christoph, our lap steel guitarist, uses an ebow,
mm,
and he kind of snuck that bending notes in there with it.
mm,
And I didn't realize it for we were playing that live, and I didn't realize it for a while. What is that? What is that? And then I thought, oh, that's kind of he's referencing Heroes, and indeed he was. It's not the same melody or anything.
no.
That's Robert Fripp's guitar part. It's not the same melody, but it kind of alludes to that feeling, and I um, I don't mind that. I love David Bowie, but we didn't set out to do that on purpose. It just kind of
Yeah.
happened naturally.
Yeah, I don't remember having heard you talk about him before, but I sort of figured that it would make sense that he would be someone that you would be a fan of.
Oh, I was a oh I devoured his music at the time when it came out. I listened to the records hundreds and hundreds of times. So I loved it up to a certain point.
Yeah, he did have a lot of variety.
You design all the Swans album covers, and I know you have a long history of making visual art. What is it about music that you think took hold of you as opposed to drawing or painting?
Well, when I was in art school, I was just finishing art school. This moment in music history happened in punk rock, and it just spoke to me as being incredibly necessary at the moment. It was like taking all of consumer culture, breathing it in, and then vomiting it out in a different form. And it just seemed like such an urgent, necessary way to express oneself at the time. Uh, and I just gravitated towards it immediately. And I quit art school, and I started a band, which was kind of a useless thing, and then moved to New York and started another band, which was a failure, and then finally started Swans, and found my way into being able to make something that had some meaning, I hope.
Talking about the performances again, something that I've been wondering is having seen you on stage a few times and also having watched other videos, you have some sort of recognizable gesticulations that you do, and there's also the sticking your tongue out. And I thought at first that this was sort of you, I don't know if getting lost is quite the right way to put it, but feeling the music. But I'm now not
Okay.
sure whether this is a matter of you feeling the music or you're actually conducting for the rest of the band. Could you shed some light on whether it's one or the other or a combination of both?
It's definitely both. When I'm playing guitar, uh, obviously both my hands are spoken for. And the only way I can communicate with another musician is I wag my tongue at them. And that usually kind of they understand that it means keep going or push it further or something like that. But at the moments when I'm not playing guitar, um, we're making these kind of swirling masses of sound, and I'm conducting their dynamics with my hands. So that's what's happening. Yeah. And it's not like I view myself as a conductor for God's sake, but it's just sort of a natural thing to do with when you're working with other musicians is I'm pushing the sound forward. It's kind of like putting your hands into a boiling cauldron of matter, and you're just moving it and making form out of it. And it's a way we develop just organically through performance.
Yeah, your use of the word swirling really strikes a chord with me there, because particularly with the last time I saw you in Leipzig, I can just remember that visceral feeling of the music, of how loud it was. And there were a lot of people around me that were wearing earplugs, and I didn't wear earplugs, which wasn't kind of like a sort of I'm trying to be a tough guy thing, but I really wanted to experience the music physically as much as I could. And it really was like such a powerful physical experience. And it did feel like the music was swirling around. So it makes a lot of sense that you describe it in that way. I mean, I don't know what it's like on stage, but, and I guess you've spoken about this before, I imagine it must be pretty intense for you just from a sort of like physical impact point of view of having the music be so loud around you.
Yeah, it's impact is the right word, I guess. It is really like being obliterated, I suppose, but it feels good. It's like just it's I don't know if you've ever taken LSD, but it's like the rush, the high point of the rush of LSD. It's really a an experience that can't be duplicated in any other way.
So staying on the topic of performances, Tom just mentioned how he didn't wear earplugs last time he saw Swans, and I did, but I had them like halfway in because I was trying to find a balance of I don't want to ruin my ears, but I also want to feel the thing. And there is this, again, I don't want to sound super dramatic, but it's a certain spirituality that comes from something that, because you feel it in your body, you literally feel all the vibrations, and you feel the energy coming from you and the rest of the band. How would you say, how do I word this? How easy is it for you to get into that state of just becoming the music, so to speak, where all that energy is coming from the band, you are in it, and the audience is now feeling it? How do you get there? Or is it easy to get there? Is it natural to get there? How much thinking do you do, maybe?
Well, well, yes, you put it well. I guess with Swans, with the way we've been working, that's sort of the goal that you described. But it comes from lots of rehearsals before the tour, like 8 hours a day for a month, every day. And then you get in front of an audience, and then it goes to another level. And then every time you play, it just keeps growing. And like I mentioned, it takes on its own mind. And I have to interject and be the impresario or the band leader, but it's something that it's just through sound and rhythm, it just takes over. And it's it's an experience that the closest analogy I can make is true lovemaking with someone that you very much love, and just the way you lose yourself and find yourself and kind of erase yourself all at once in this act of kind of uh, cosmic interchange.
Right. The amount of trust that you have with the members, it's a beautiful thing, where the organic nature of the fact that you're able to write new material while on tour shows, I mean, just the tireless hours and dedication and again, trust that you have with the members. It's really, you don't see or hear that very much. You don't really see many bands who don't just stick to the song. It's such a rare and interesting thing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's I love the people I work with whom I work. I trust them completely as well. And we have differences of opinion about how things should go, or they might do something that I'm not fond of, or they'll do something that completely surprises me, and then we go with that. But it's all a give and take, and it's a wonderful experience.
Getting back to the album, I wanted to ask you about another thing that I noticed with the music. So there were a couple of points on the album, I think particularly on the Healer's and Guardian Spirit. There were these passages of percussion that I would describe like explosions or fireworks. And the only other time that I can think of on one of your records where I've heard that or something very similar was on the Beggar Lover 3. I'm not sure if you know what I'm referring to, but I was wondering, was that kind of something that you had discovered in that previous recording that you were doing again, or that the drummer was doing there?
Um, I think what you're talking about are these snare flutters, the kind of random attacks of the snare.
Yep.
Um, that's Phil Puleo is a great drummer, but it just the music might reach a certain point, and it just seems kind of redundant and silly to continue the standard groove, and so I'll have Phil just lose it, just lose it, and we'll continue our trajectory. But you just need to be this expressionist monster here in this section and add more, yeah, like you say, explosions in this here. So yeah, I think that's what you're referring to.
Unlike the other songs in the album, Red and Yellow and The Merge, said they were written in studio. I'm a little in awe about The Merge and its kind of construction, because it does a lot of different things. Can you talk a little bit about how that song is put together?
Yeah, I don't know how the fuck that was put together. That was that was really, really an undertaking. I had, I don't know how you would describe it, like these sort of amorphous notions of how to wrangle sound together to make this piece. It started with that little acoustic guitar thing at the end. That's how it started. And then I thought, that's an acoustic guitar song. How do I put this in a different context? And so I just started, I don't know how you would say, I just kind of dove in. I thought, well, I'm going to have a bass line going here. And so I played some notes on the acoustic guitar, and then I had Chris play them instead on the bass. And then for that wonderful drumming section, I had the drummer from Insect Arc. It's not Phil.
Tim Mosquito.
Come in and play. Yeah, I had him come in and play drums on that. And I wanted it to be syncopated and to not really follow the groove, but yet allude to the groove the whole time. And then once we had that, then that indicated further sounds that should happen in there. And then it needed a section that just kind of suddenly came in and broke. And so we built up this massive drone section that we could interject in immediately following that. And I had some other sounds that I wanted to use, and I made that happen at the beginning. And just kind of through instinct or intuition, finally just pieced the whole thing together, and it became what it is.
Something that I also noticed in The Merge, that you had this counting that was partly in German and partly in English. And it reminded me of when you did Die Tour ist Zoo, this EP that drew from Soundtracks to the Blind, and you reimagined certain tracks, and you did, I forget which one it was now, but you had was it Helpless Child maybe, that you did in German. So I was wondering, I know that you have the German, you've got a German connection, you recorded the latest album in Berlin, and you've done other work in Berlin before. Is there anything particular for you about the German language that makes it special for you to draw in, or is there an incidental reason why you've come back to peppering your music with German language?
No, I mean, I know some German, and I have a young son who's just now turning 5, and I wanted some counting in there, which is a way of having the human voice just marking time without any external meaning. But then I wanted to kind of erase the fact that it was counting and put it in a different language. Another thing I could have done was have it I did. I had him count backwards and forwards too, so that it would become more of an abstract field rather than focusing on the fact that it's counting 1 through 10. So I had him do it in German. I taught him how to say it sort of in German.
Did you know when writing these songs, or did you have any idea when writing these songs that they would kind of be the last big, expansive Swan songs? Since you said this is going to be the last expansive Swans album, at least for the time being.
No, I didn't have an idea. When I wrote the songs, most of them, except for the 2 studio songs you mentioned, they were written specifically so we could perform them live, and they evolved into what they are on the record. But after doing the last tour, I took a deep breath and I thought, how much more of this do I have in me? And the answer is some, but not much. And because it's physically so demanding, and it's also I don't want to get caught in repeating the same tropes over and over. So I thought it was important to just say, well, this will be it for this way of working. And I've written, what is it, like 3, maybe 4 new songs that would probably take place in the next iteration of Swans. But I really don't know how they're going to be orchestrated or what shape they're going to take. But it's just time to move into something else. I love what I'm doing right now, and I'm looking forward to touring, but it's time to move into something else and see what happens.
How do you think your experience performing as Swans will change with a smaller sound?
My experience, well, I think it'll be more like what I do when I perform solo. Maybe more, certainly with more color than that, but I am going to force myself to concentrate more on the words and the singing, and not so much all the hoopla of sound around that, and try to focus on just performing songs, I think. But again, I don't know how the orchestration is going to be. I'm forcing myself not to really think about it too much because I want to focus on what I'm doing now.
And in terms of the performances that are coming up, so you mentioned the fact that you're going to be doing a solo tour. What do you have lined up in terms of Swans and solo shows in the coming months?
Christoph Hahn and I are doing a solo tour together in April, all of April. I leave Tuesday, to go to Berlin, and we're going to rehearse a bit and then go on tour. We'll be playing songs I've written. He's going to open the set with his own wonderful improvisation for about 20 minutes, and then that's going to bleed into him accompanying me and my songs. So we're going to do that for a month. And then in October, we tour the United States as Swans. And following that, I believe it's November, December, something like that, we're going to tour Europe. And there may be more touring after that. It depends on how things go. We'll see.
I'm sure Mike and I are both going to be making sure that we have the opportunity to
indeed, yeah,
to take our opportunities to see you. In terms of the release of the album, so just wrapping up, if I get this right, the album is available now to pre-order triple vinyl and double CD. I hope I've got that right. And North American fans can get it from Young God Records. People in Europe can get it from Mute. I understand that if they buy directly from Young God Records, there is a bonus DVD that they can get, and that's of some sort of limited quantity. Have I got that all right?
Yes. Yeah, the DVD is, it's 2 different little films. One of them is Swans, and it's Marco Porgia filmed it. He's the guy that did Where Does the Body End, which is a Swans documentary. But he did a multi-camera filming of us in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the final 2 shows. And that just includes the piece that was the long intro piece called Rope and the Beggar, which is 82 minutes of one performance. So that's a live video of us performing that. And then there's another video, which a person named Christopher Nicholson from Norway shot of me performing in a church in Norway solo a couple of years ago. And he did a great job, and it's really a great film. I'm surprised. I normally hate myself solo, seeing it on film, but he did a really good job, and it sounds good, and I'm really happy with it. So I thought, since this is the end of a chapter, that we should include all this information along with it.
Well, Michael Gira, thank you so much for your time. It has been a pleasure and honor. And as I say, Mike and I will both be very much looking forward to getting to see you playing these songs live, and seeing where you go next with wherever the music takes you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I very much appreciate your interest in this.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Say hello at a show if you come. I'd like to
Absolutely.
see you and say hi.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
All the best.
All right.
So there you have it. Michael was cool as hell, and he decided to pay our little pod a visit, and we are eternally grateful. Also eternally grateful to Tom. Without his help, none of this would have happened. That was very impressive, Tom. Extremely impressive. Usually when we do interviews, the very rare occasions that we do interviews, Tom does it by himself, and we usually put it at the end of our episode on whatever album that artist is there to promote. Obviously, this is a little bit different, because when Tom came to me and said, I think we might be able to get Michael Gira on the podcast, I said, I don't care if I don't interview people ever. I'm doing it. I'm going to be there. So that's what happened, and that's what happened. So maybe there'll be more like this. Who knows? Either way, it was a lot of fun, and I am a new man. That's right. If you've stuck around to watch this outro, then thank you. We like it when people watch this and stay. You should stay longer. You should subscribe. You should like the video. You should leave a comment telling me why I'm stupid and I should stop wearing suits. I'm not going to listen to it, but you should do it anyway. You can also follow me on all social media at PanderMonkey. Check out my EP. There's a link to that in the description, where I make the music. You can follow Tom on all social media at Tom Osmond Sounds. You can follow his music, because he makes music too, TomOsmondSounds.com, and his podcast, where he does lots and lots of interviewing of very interesting musicians. Whatever comes next. And there's links to that in the description as well. Last plug, our regular co-host, Alex, who's not here today, of course. You can follow him on Bluesky at Octatron3030. Yeah, go there, do all the things. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun here. If you want to join our Patreon, you could also do that. Patreon.com/everyalbumever. We got bonus episodes there. You get to see our schedules in advance. You get to join the Discord, be a part of the community, talk shop, talk ship, talk music, and you can also suggest brand new albums for us to cover. Very fun stuff. If you're tier 2, then you can suggest any album from anywhere, and we'll do a bonus episode on it. So it's a lot of fun. It's very cool. Go there. It pays my bills. It doesn't actually pay my bills, but it helps to pay my bills. So please help pay my bills. So until the next one, Tom and I will be back next week to give a full rundown on birthing. And then the week after, we have a nice big episode that people have been waiting for. So it'll be a lot of fun. So until then, see ya.